From the studios of Books in Motion, this is Justin Spencer, reading Live by the Gun by Wayne Barton and Stan Williams. Now let's begin with Chapter 1. I'd slung the hang rope over an oak limb and was just about to hoist my buck by his antlers when I saw the rider coming in. At first, he wasn't more than a tall shadow against the sunset, so I didn't pay him much mind. A lot of folks stopped to camp at the wells. It wasn't too usual for a lone man to ride in so late, but it wasn't anything uncommon either. After all, I was there alone. That was a little different. I was on a hunting trip, just a few miles from home. The rest of the campers looked like families traveling mostly, that and a crew of Mexican cedar cutters and a few out-of-work cowhands passing through. They were there for the same reason as me, the good water at the wells. Fact is, I hadn't paid any of them much mind either. It had been a long time since lunch and not much of that, so I was about ready to eat and turn in. The rider had already passed the first couple of places he might have stopped. I glanced at him again, then put my back into hauling the buck snug up against the limb and safe from the coyotes. November nights are cold in central Texas, so I figured the meat would chill out by morning. Feeling good, I went to my wagon to check the grub box. I'd put coffee on to boil before I started with the deer. Now sundown was so near that I'd have to cook in the dark or get by on an airtight of peaches and some of yesterday's hard biscuits. I'd about decided on the peaches when I heard a horse pull up right behind me. The lone rider spoke in a voice I'd known all my life. "Well, looky here. First night out from home, and I find me a real desperado." "Davy, I wouldn't have thought about you for $1." Davy Johnson was leaning on his saddle horn, grinning down at me. He had his hat off, and his thatch of blonde hair looked like somebody's hayrick. He was bundled in a big sheepskin coat he always wore on the trail. His deputy's star was pinned over the left pocket. He was 22, 2 years older than me, and I'd tagged after him ever since we'd been big enough to walk. Now he had him a pretty wife and a year-old daughter and a county job that had brought him to my campfire. "Maybe I'll come in peaceable," I told him. "Do you feed your prisoners good?" He laughed softly. "Shoot, bud, the county can't afford to feed you. It'd pay me to hang you right away." He nodded toward the deer. "Probably I ought to confiscate that buck. What is he, 7 points?" "6. He didn't make any move to get down, so I added, "What brings you out here? Some kind of lawman business?" "Sorta. Old Sam Reynolds, he thinks some of his calves might have had a little help straying off and getting lost. I'm out seeing who we have traveling through." He grinned at me. "I've already talked to your neighbors. That little Johnny McNally's growing up real pretty. If she was my neighbor, I'd see if I couldn't scrub her down a little and get her into a dress." "Nothing to do with me," I said. "Why did you stop out there?" He shrugged. "Like always, any time there's trouble, we think about the McNallys first. They've quieted down a little since Mark got married, though." There were 4 of the McNallys: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and young Johnny. Their ma had been a determined woman, and she hadn't varied from her plan for naming them just because the last one had betrayed her by being a girl. They all lived out on the spread just west of my farm. Gossip said their pa had gotten his start by selling other folks' cattle in Mexico, and most people didn't figure his sons were too different. They were good neighbors, though, most of the time. "Luke's still wild enough," I said. Davy laughed. "Guess you wouldn't mind seeing me put Luke away for 10 or 20 years? His voice turned serious. "Is he still holding a grudge over you and Annette?" "I reckon so." Luke McNally was the same age as me.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?